Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kids Media Club podcast. I'm very relieved because that opening theme tune music didn't last for like hours in the same way that it did at the beginning of our KidScreen a panel session where it seemed to go on for an inordinate amount of time. Anyway, we're back at home now. How are you guys?
Ah, good. Yes, we the Kids Media Club podcast divided and conquered the world of kids media transatlantically, didn't we? Yes. I saw your session on the big stage, looking right at home up there, even with your extended intro.
Yeah, the extended intro threw me, so I didn't know we had that. Maybe we need to make it.
I think that's my fault. I think I thought, there'd be a bit of us kind of getting ready, and maybe we could do with a 30-second intro, but then I don't know. It seemed to drag on forever as we were just sat there waiting for it to finish.
I feel like I should have had it as my walking music.
Yeah,
maybe for MIP London. Missed a trick there. Next time we divide and conquer, I'll take my own walk-on music.
Yes.
Intro. So how was KidScreen? I'm going to throw it to you two first. How was it? First impressions, Emily?
Yeah, it was. The weather was good. No, it was good. It was inside, like, so based in San Diego, new hotel. We spoke with this with Eric Calderon as well in the bonus episode yesterday, but smaller attendance, that was the word on the ground. It's kind of, I always find it difficult to judge attendance when it's in a different space, but there was definitely more space for sure. I felt like the Sunday was a bit weird. The Sunday was kind of quiet, and then the Monday, the KidScreen energy really took off, and like the bubbling hubbub of like all the conversations Monday, Tuesday definitely were in session in a major way. So it was good. I mean, I feel like the sessions were very intentional. I feel like before I've only been, this is only my third time ever going to KidScreen, but before it's been like a bit of YouTube here, a bit of Roblox there, where I think the KidScreen guys put real intentionality into having like extensive YouTube programs, extensive Roblox programs. I don't know how much, begging or liaising they had to do to get real boots on the ground there in terms of Roblox developers, Roblox studios, YouTube creators, YouTube studios, YouTube providers, right? Like it was, whereas before it's been like Roblox and YouTube are allowed into this arena. It was a lot more like, this is their arena too. Like, let's just get on with it, So I definitely think that the conference schedule really reflected that in a major way. And it had all sorts of sessions from like 101, right? Like Stephen Dampiango just doing like, basics of Roblox for people who need to know, which would have been more of the standard session before, up into, meet the Roblox developers, or these are people who are activating on Roblox. Like there was lots of different layers to the way it was, the way those two subjects were engaged with, which I think was necessary, definitely, but also
absolutely.
It was the right way.
Arguably overdue, but yes, good that they are now a standard part of the schedule and not relegated to side rooms, which I think was the case before.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I felt like the hierarchy, the kind of traditional hierarchy of TV had been kind of well and truly scrambled, and so there wasn't a kind of TV at the top of the hierarchy and then kind of social media further down. It was basically everyone on the same playing field.
Yeah, I would echo that actually with MIP London and the Kids and Teens Summit that I was hosting, and in a way quite nice that it was similar in both events, given that I think we can pride ourselves on being the voices that have been talking about this for a long time in terms of how Roblox and YouTube and TV, there is no hierarchy anymore. They are all part of a young person's media diet, and at different points in time, each one is equally important, or one more important than the other. But there's certainly not overall one that sits atop the tree anymore. And that was certainly the case at the Kids and Teens Summit. Same thing. We had YouTube next to broadcast, next to producers, next to Roblox. And what was nice was that in the room, you saw a much more even spread now. It used to be, it was the TV execs. So it wasn't just the panels and the content that reflected TV's dominance. It was the execs in the room, and the periphery, you might have got the odd kind of Roblox or YouTube rep. No, now they were all mixed in together, all sat amongst one another. You got Banijay sat next to YouTube, sat next to Andrew Bereza, who was there from Twin Atlas, who are the studio behind Creatures of Scenario and a lot of the Lego activations. And it was really great to see everybody in that kind of big kind of mishmash now, rather than in separate little factions.
And was there any sort of tension between, by having kind of all of those players in the same room now at the same level, were there any tensions there at MIP? Because I think I picked up a few bits of tension at KidScreen in terms of people coming from different.
Need some tea?
Sorry?
We need some tea. Give us the tea, Andy.
So one of the keynotes was Jonathan Haidt. Is it Haidt?
Oh, yes, Anxious Generation.
Yeah, so he's the author of Anxious Generation. So he gave a keynote that he opened up by saying he'd looked at the schedule of talks before him, and he'd noticed that there was one on Roblox, and then there was one on microdramas, and basically he didn't kind of he was under no kind of illusions that the audience was under no illusions that he didn't agree with those, and he thought it was a bad idea for people to be producing microdramas for children, or for to be doing social media for kids, because that was his whole bit, really. And it was interesting because, as we discussed, there were a lot of panels that had been specifically about YouTube or specifically about Roblox. So it kind of divided the room, really, and you got a sense that even though everyone was on the same playing field, even within that space, people were coming at it from slightly different areas. I thought it was interesting that KidScreen kind of allowed the space for all of those sides of the debate, but there were definitely some kind of conflicts in terms of point of view there. And I just wondered if there was a similar thing at MIP London.
Yeah, there was. I mean, the Kids and Teens Summit was just a morning. So we had half a dozen different sessions, from data from Ampere and Glance to state of the industry, where we had everybody from Banijay to the BBC to producers to Marcus from The Gang, who are a Roblox studio there, talking about the whole gamut of challenges. So it kind of cropped up there. There was no one session that really talked about the challenges, obviously, that we've spoken about a lot on this podcast before, about social media, potential bans, age restrictions. Should short form be pushed to kids? That we can extend that maybe to microdramas. Of course, it's not perfect. So there is a tension in how media is changing. The business of media is changing, what that means for young people and their well-being. But there's also a tension in how, TV is no longer at the core of it anymore. There were some people there who, when Andrew gave a great keynote about Roblox, and I'd asked him specifically, address the safety issue up top. A lot of people in that room, that will be top of mind. And he went through very eloquently about the tool set. And again, we've talked about it on here, about the tool set that Roblox is rolling out. They're almost getting ahead of those crosshairs we spoke about a couple of episodes ago. So he really clearly set out what the challenges were, what the tool sets were. Obviously, then he spoke about not only Creatures of Scenario, which is their really, really, really successful game and has a really loyal fan base, not specifically made for kids, but they've worked a lot with Lego. Now, Lego are very careful about the spaces in which they activate and how they do it. And they trust Twin Atlas to do it right. So I felt he grasped the nettle up top, which was great, but then went on to show how you could activate on there in a brand safe way, but also how you could do it in a way that services the rest of your business. Like Lego Ninjago, they are there to grow an IP. So I thought that was really interesting. So maybe little tensions cropped up within other panels, but less so a keynote that did the same as Jonathan Haidt did.
Because that's the thing right now, obviously, with the social media bans looming and YouTube part of that. TV, is Roblox part of that in Australia? I need to go double check that.
It's not, but Australia have asked for an urgent meeting.
Yeah, it was brought in.
Consider rolling it.
But it's like banning kids off or age restricting them off it pushes it absolves the platforms of responsibility when kids get around those restrictions, right? And the one thing I have always observed about Roblox is they acknowledge that kids are there. They acknowledge that they're there in volumes. They will never get it right. They won't. Like you will always take pot shots at because it's just never perfect. Like it's not perfect, unfortunately, in the digital world. But they seem to be trying to really invest in things. I saw they announced a parent council last week.
Yeah,
they're rolling out.
They've got age gating, so you can't chat. There was already age restrictions as to what you would be recommended and what would be surfaced in search. So there are lots of safeguards that are already being rolled out, and as we've mentioned before, sometimes they roll out safety measures and it breaks games, and the developer base actually will not be very happy, and ultimately they have to work those bugs out. But that shows a commitment in that they're willing to roll out those tool sets and then figure out ironing out the wrinkles, and when the developers are moaning that it's impacted their game, they then try and fix it. It's not a reason not to roll it out, which is it can be unusual in tech platforms. They're not normally that willing to be preemptive. So I do think that they are one of the ones that it is being kind of forthcoming with solutions, potential solutions, even when they temporarily break the mechanics of the platform.
That's the impression I got at the Children's Summit as well, which was that the mood.
So the Children's Summit was in London the week. Speakers, lads. It's a busy couple of weeks. And the week before MIP London, the week before KidScreen.
That's right, and you're kind of primarily to discuss and look for solutions to kind of the issues around social media and safety for children on online platforms, but also around monetization and funding of children's content. And I expected it to be more bullish in terms of a social media ban, but I felt it was quite nuanced in terms of, in some ways, the general impression I got is that it would be absolving platforms of their responsibility to just do an outright ban. And it reminded me of the complaints people made about the high fat, sugar and salt advertising regulations that were brought in, I don't know, 20 or so years ago. And ITV then took that as an opportunity to basically pull out of children's programming entirely. And it gave them an exit that they'd been maybe looking for before. So I think the idea was to avoid that same mistake for the kind of current era.
Yeah, and I did tuck into one of the sessions that was posted this week because I wasn't able to make the Children's Media Foundation Day. And there was one session that somebody had suggested that no phones for kids under 16, and I really had to shake my head at that one. I mean, good luck with putting that particular genie back in the bottle. But then also as a parent of two boys who are older than 16 now, and many other parents in a similar situation, that's how you keep tabs on and you make sure that, they're going to come home for dinner because they've wandered via the shop and then the park. And sometimes you can have a little notification on your phone as to where they are, or you can message and say, are you coming back for dinner? So, I mean, there are other things that are a big positive with those devices in kids' pockets, particularly when they're at high school. I perhaps felt haven't been acknowledged in that particular sweeping statement.
Yeah, he was definitely very, very, I don't know. He was very kind of, I don't know, kind of the right way to express it, but yeah, he's very uncompromising.
He was uncompromising.
Uncompromising in his position, and he was a teacher, as I remember, and I think there's definitely an argument for for maybe a mobile phone ban while they're at school.
Yeah.
But maybe kind of outside of that, it's a different question.
Well, it's that question of like, so there's brick phones. Can you get your kids brick phones? I would just add to that.
Yeah.
I know it's not kids media, but like, I would really like to get my parents brick cars. Cars these days have too many cars going off, freaking out the old people,
and can be just as dangerous in the wrong hands.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
Oh my word! Brick phones, brick cars. That's my pitch.
I like it.
I think the question also is like, and this is something that came up when I was at KidScreen. It's like looking at like the YouTube COPA ban, right, or the YouTube COPA not ban, the YouTube COPA ruling.
Yeah.
Did it benefit kids? Right? We're not arguing. It was unlawful for YouTube to be contextually targeting kids without parental consent. But it's like, did removing that actually help kids? And I think that's one of the questions that we rarely ask. You know, things. Not we personally, but you know, when these things are rolled out, they're rolled out. There you go. Now we've done politics tends to work in a cycle of. Now we've done the legislation. You lobbied for it, you got it, and then move on, as opposed to, you know,
and
revisiting and considering and implications and wide-reaching ecosystem impacts and stuff.
Well, and often the legislature moves so slow that by the time the regulation has been passed, years have gone by. I mean, that was one of the things that came up at the Children's Media Foundation Day, that the online harms bill took 7 years to get through. So often by the time regulation is rolled out, the world has changed again. And I do wonder if going back to copper regulations, which came in 2019, I mean, the hindsight is always 2020, isn't it? But you think about where we are now, and I have got a stat open on my screen at the side of our little window that was from Ampere analysis at MIP London, about commissions. Well, so you've got a massive disincentive on YouTube because monetization has been reduced to less than 10% of what it was. So a financial disincentive to create on
less
there.
than 10%. Is that the stat that Ampere have?
No. This is what I'm trying to remember from when we people that we've spoken to in the past.
It was reduced to around 30%. Sorry, I thought that.
Okay.
I was like, if it's gone down again, we need to be having the fire alarms.
Still not enough for a sustainable business.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but that in isolation, but now we also have in 2025 stats from Ampere that the headline of the lovely Serene's slide was 2025 wasn't the best year for TV commissions. So that tells you the subtext. So if there'd been a bit of a bounce back in 2024, in 2025, children's and family genre commissions were down 20%. Other genres suffered a reduction of 9%. So it's disproportionately affecting kids and family commissions, down 20% in 2025, at the same time as making money on YouTube is reduced to maximum 30% of what it was before. And this is why, I know I sound dramatic, but when I do say that, I wonder whether kids media is headed towards market failure. Because if the commissioners aren't investing and there's no financial incentive to attract investors or producers that are willing to create on YouTube, we do hit this market failure situation where who's going to make content? Why would you make content?
Yeah, there's definitely danger of that. I spoke to a distributor at KidScreen that said they basically made the point that they thought most kids media producers would end up calling themselves family content producers or producing media for young audiences rather than specifically kids, because kids as a market was becoming more and more challenging. I mean, going back to the copper thing, the thing that it strikes me is that an enormous amount of data is marshaled before the legislation to kind of lobby for new legislation to be put in. But then you don't get a lot of that same data to test whether the legislation has been effective. So it does feel like there'd be an argument for some kind of sunset clause on some of these to be able to circle back and say, has this achieved what we wanted to achieve, and what have been the trade-offs?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It would be interesting to see if that kind of analysis had been done, because I don't see. But just you saying that about the word kids, isn't that a shame? That the word kids in a media context is becoming so toxic that people wouldn't want to use it, because I mean, I know your head's in your hands, Emily. But
What am I
isn't
going to
that a
read about my
shame?
newsletter to?
That's crazy. We've got to rename the podcast. What a pain.
No, because
People forget who the real victims are here.
yeah, someone has to advocate for it, because actually it's a valid point you're making. If there is such a disincentive to even be aligned to kids media that you consider calling yourself a family or young audience producer, then something is really broken and we've got to bloody fix it.
Yeah. The young audience podcast, media podcast, doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
No, we're not giving up on kids. Other people maybe, but we're not giving up on kids.
I know, but it is, guys, why I find, like, and I know I dropped a few spicy newsletters at the end of last year and coming into this year, because it I feel like in the conversations we've had over the years, pragmatism with a hint of optimism, love of what we do, has kept things positive. But I do struggle in the light of what, like, the different currents to I find myself struggling to do that a little bit more recently, and that's I'm not usually that person. I'm usually like toxic positivity, toxic energy, kind of like happy to like be on the happiness train of kids media, because it just makes me laugh and makes me joyful and happy. But yeah, I don't know. It's a grind. It's definitely a grind.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Although, going back to KidScreen, it did make me optimistic that lots of people seemed to understand the challenges and were working hard to try and find solutions to it. It felt like the most pragmatically optimistic one I can remember in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I'll say is, like, it was distilled. I think I use that word with Eric. It was like the people who were there really needed to do business, you know?
Yeah.
So, and listen, the industry we're working is a privilege, you know. It's not frontline worker, right? So but it is really tough. And then obviously, like, on the back of like one of the biggest weeks of news in the entertainment industry, where, you know, the pivot from Warner from Netflix to Paramount, right? Like, I just don't think I'm gonna watch the next season of the entertainment industry. Like, I'm done. Like, you know, or maybe I'll just take a break for a year and then I'll come back to it. I might binge season like 9 and 10 together. I don't know. I just can't take it. Like,
yeah. It's I'm just flicking through some of the Ampere analysis from last week, just to see if there's any other things that I can kind of throw in that was interesting.
positive, hopeful, Joe.
That would give us a glimmer of hope. Yes. Struggling to find that. No, what was one of the trend lines was, although kids commissions are down, they are down proportionately more from the out of the US. So actually, the UK and Europe, they're sustaining or stemming said decline a little bit more than perhaps North America is. The other positive trend was there's gaming IP. Obviously, we've been speaking about this for a long time, but social media first IP, so creator-led IP from YouTube, but now increasingly gaming IP are being adapted. And again, we had Twin Atlas, who have Creatures of Scenaria, which is being adapted for animation. And we know that Grow a Garden has also been optioned for adaptation into a movie by Story Kitchen. So there's little kind of pivots, glimmers of hope. But on the whole, it was much like KidScreen. Those that were left in the room were passionate and not going down without a fight, which is good to distill, to use that phrase. And necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it? So I feel like we're getting to that stage now.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you also might probably have more public service folks talking at MIP London, Joe. How was?
I can tell you we had
YouTube BBC session or any other session that was on.
Yes, we had a fireside. So I was hosting Mari Brewis from YouTube, who's head of media co-partnerships, and the fabulous Lydia Musabi from BBC Children's, who's head of their digital. Just talking about the announcement. Of course, it was big news that had been announced only a matter of 10 days or 2 weeks prior. So we dug into it a little bit further about what it meant for these kids channels. A suite of 7 were originally announced. We talked about how they were looking to curate those, because they're not just going to be a straight up lift and shift of what is the broadcast footprint and then put it on YouTube. So there are, I think there's one called Epic Chaos. There's obviously going to be a Horrible Histories kind of led one. I mean, that's such a superb IP that it does warrant a branded channel. But about the new skill set in how you curate those channels, how you program those channels, and what that programming strategy was going to be, which was quite interesting, because I think, in fact, I'm even going to pull up my notes so I can take you through it. There's a kind of a 3-pronged approach that they are looking to take. So it will be relatively promo-led. It still feels more like a marketing play than a real programmed destination channel for the BBC. So YouTube native promos, but they are still very much looking to drive audiences to iPlayer. Whether that will work or not, I don't know, given that YouTube is very much the media infrastructure for a whole generation. They will use full episodes, but they'll be tactical. So they'll be around new series launches. There will not be an upload of entire seasons of full episodes. And again, I think I'd perhaps assumed that there would be more full episode usage than I think there perhaps will be. And of course, it will evolve as they over time. But there will be new YouTube first commissions, which they had gone on record as saying. And one of the ones we talked about was The Next Step, which is obviously a long-running, successful series on CBBC, been going for years. And they are looking at creating a micro drama type format around The Next Step that will sit on YouTube as that bridge to then the volume of content and catalog content for The Next Step on iPlayer. So in that sense, I can see very much they're using it as a front door into the BBC, given that the BBC's mission is to service the UK population cradle to grave. We know that young people aren't growing up with a natural affinity to the BBC. So as a front door, a launch pad, great. Whether it will work and bring a whole new audience to iPlayer in that way, I don't know, given how important we know that YouTube is to those social first generation. But really interesting, obviously for YouTube, from their point of view, being able to say that the BBC is a media partner of theirs does them a lot of favors, stands them in good stead, particularly when we're looking at regulation and all of those things that we've spoken about. And obviously YouTube will support the BBC with advice on best practice. What are those quality principles, thumbnails, hook, channel identity, those skill sets that perhaps the BBC don't have in-house that YouTube can help. And we talked about the YouTube industry program that the two have joined together to run, which is a 10-week course delivered via the National Film and Television School.
Oh, yeah,
I think is really good. A mix of TV and digital creators on this course, 50 places, and that will be, I think that is actually something really positive that they're doing together.
Great.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Comprehensive program then.
Sorry?
A very comprehensive program.
It was. Yeah. I mean, and they were both, the tendency is when you're in a forum like MIP or KidScreen and you've got two corporates there in YouTube and the BBC, the tendency is it gets very scripted, doesn't it? And of course, the PR people sit in on your prep calls, but I have to say genuinely, both were very open and they were very, very generous and very candid with what they said. And actually that came back in the feedback from the attendees as well, and that they didn't expect quite such candid kind of transparency. Realness. But back to your point, Emily, I think everybody acknowledges now it's time for realness. So it was great that we could reflect that as well.
Great. All right. Well, listen, I missed you guys a lot. We missed you, Joe.
I know. I missed hanging out in sunny San Diego. It was a rainy London, running between the Savoy and the IET. The The split site thing, I think everybody had got used to at MIP London now, kind of having to run between the various rooms at the Savoy and the IET. But actually, it felt, it felt quite vibrant. The last thing I'll say, the Sidemen, Arcade Media, they did a big keynote. And again, just goes to show how important creators and YouTube is in that wider infrastructure now. But all good.
And what were the takeaways from their keynote?
Long form.
Okay.
Long form on YouTube.
Yeah.
Appointment viewing. Sidemen Sunday is doing great. Sidemen Sunday has been their regular weekly upload for 7-8 years now, if not longer.
Wow.
Again, kind of goes against the perceived wisdom that YouTube, you can't create appointment viewing on YouTube. Well, they've proved that you can. And
Who's saying that? Anyway, okay.
Longer form content. They are not slave to shorts. I think now the Sidemen as a creator group, they've got so many other business interests and calls on their time. Actually, it's a function of just resource that they can't be as prolific as they were. But handily, that reflects what YouTube is moving to, which is a much more premium TV-like experience, which doesn't necessarily require volume, duration, yes, longer duration and slightly higher production values. And as a result, the Sidemen last Sunday, they did a rework of Family Fortunes that they'd licensed from Fremantle. So they've gone digging around in Fremantle's format archives, and Fremantle have said, go for it. You do your thing, which I think
amazing.
Is and the other thing that came out was that they don't, Arcade and the Sidemen do not stress about view counts anymore. They look at watch time and average view duration. And that is the metric that they worry about. So, and they kind of know what they're doing. So I would say that is one piece of advice worth listening to is average view duration. Don't necessarily stress about view counts.
Interesting. Wow, I'm excited about all of the new formats that might be licensed from old TV to YouTube in the future. Well,
I think we're on the cusp of that happening a lot now.
Yeah.
They did Supermarket Sweep once before as a bit of a joke, and I think Fremantle, who are obviously sitting on a whole raft of formats, they are. Yeah, I mean Fremantle masters of formats. They clearly spotted something and have said, "Okay, what do you want to rummage around in the format box and pull out next?" And Family Fortunes was the one from last Sunday. And when I looked at the viewing figures, they'd had about 3 million views in 24 hours. So interesting how an old format can be reworked by creators and still find an audience in 2026.
Yeah.
Love it.
There's hope for the TV industry yet.
Yes.
Amazing. Oh, well, good to do the fact with you guys again. Yes, I'd missed you too.
Yeah, great to have everyone back.
Okie dokie. Well, we will be back next week. Andy, do you want to do the sign off?
Yeah, I'll do the sign off. So thanks very much for listening, everyone. And please like and subscribe. And you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you guys next week. Perfect.